Do all IELTS test complaints end up in court? Defining an IELTS test complaint. Failing the IELTS test. Many people fail the IELTS test. More than half of the IELTS tests are failures as per data from IDP Education. IDP Education are the owners of the IELTS test in Australia. What is an IELTS complaint? The complaint process can either be defined as feedback, inquiry on results, or a complaint. If you make a complaint, IDP Education will usually divert your complaint to be feedback or inquiry on results. A complaint process starts with complaint letters to resolve your problem. IELTS will send back template letter responses to the IELTS test candidate. It is important that you persist with your complaint and not get diverted by paying an inquiry on results, as we have never met a person who had failed their IELTS test score changed to a higher mark from an inquiry on results. What do IELTS do when you complain? As over half the IELTS tests are failures, you can easily imagine that they have mechanized their complaint process. When a test candidate submits a complaint, you are just another test candidate expressing their dislike in the extra revenue that IDP Education are generating. When you complain with IELTS independent investigation process, legal aid or consumer affairs, IELTS realize that you have sought professional help and usually deal with the complaint a little differently. When you get help as an IELTS test candidate, the complaint progress becomes less stressful and easier for you. It can also place IELTS in a strategic position that they cannot ignore your complaint, and the complaint will only become stronger as the complaint process is pursued. From reading our website articles, you will learn that the complaint process can lead to a court or tribunal hearing if IDP Education do not resolve your complaint. For an IELTS test candidate, the complaint process is quite easy and cheap. However, for IDP Education, it is very expensive and risky to not resolve your complaint. It can be risky because the decision is public, and once other IELTS candidates learn that they can complain as well, it creates a snowball effect of complaints against IDP Education. What will happen if you complain? When you complain about your IELTS test, the complaint goes to an auditing department of IDP Education. They will first send you a few template responses in response to the letters that you had sent. An IELTS test candidate is in vulnerable position as they need to pass their IELTS test by a certain date for immigration purposes or for the purpose of professional recognition so they can work in their qualified profession. IDP Education template responses they send you seem to be designed to slow your complaint down so you redo the IELTS test at your own expense and eventually stop complaining due to the time constraint mentioned above. The Australian dollars of complaints. Let's look at the Australian dollars of the complaint. After all, when you complain, IELTS is a private company making more profit every time you fail. If you are going to cause any financial detriment to IDP Education, they are more than likely going to settle your complaint quickly, rather than ignoring you. What do you want and what does IELTS want? IELTS test candidate want. When you complain, you are wanting your test scores remarked fairly with the intention of a fair mark, which would be a higher score. Or you will want your money back from the test that you had failed due to the breaches of Australian consumer law. IDP Education want. IDP Education will want the complaint to go away, so they do not need to have staff dealing with your complaint, and they do not want to lose money if your complaint proceeds to a court or tribunal. IDP Education also wants to maintain their statutory monopoly, so they are the only tests that immigrants can take. Show me the money. as the IELTS test is a commercial venture conducted for profit, while having a test that is not even marked by English teachers. There is little wonder that you could be of the view that profit is predominantly all they care about. Here is a scenario. Let's say complain on your own, or with the help of an IELTS independent investigation process, or something similar, and you pursue your complaint to a court. It will cost you 0 to 156 Australian dollars to apply to a small claims court. If you have financial difficulty, almost all courts or courts have a fee waiver. IDP education will spend about 3,000 to 11,000 Australian dollars on lawyers to respond to the complaint in a court. These amounts are correct. It sounds expensive, however, it's true that it does cost this much for IELTS Australia to respond. Small claims courts are very cheap, however, for a large company to respond can be expensive. If you are complaining about 5 IELTS tests, you will base your IELTS complaint on 1,650 Australian dollars. What would you do if you were IDP education? Would you quickly and quietly give back 1,650 Australian dollars to the IELTS test candidate, or would you fight the IELTS complaint in a court and spend 3,000 to 11,000 Australian dollars and risk having to pay 1,650 Australian dollars to the IELTS candidate anyway? Bottom line, obviously the concept of complaining with or without assistance has a great strategic benefit to succeed in a complaint with IDP education.